Om. Om. Sahana Vavatu. Sahana Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavaditamastu mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We have a Q&A session today. A few questions have been sent in and we'll give priority to those questions. We'll take that up first. After that, if we have time, we can take up any other questions that comes up. Let's start with the first question. Question 1 by Krish. Krish, your question is, what caused the famous sage Valmiki, once a Pandit? See, there are
Sorry, a bandit.
other version of bandit or Pandit it became. Okay. So what caused the famous sage Valmiki, once a bandit, to turn towards the light? And where exactly does the initial deep desire to want to change at all costs actually arise from? What causes a person to change? See, the way it works is that the experiences may be different. See, what may trigger one person may be different from what triggers the other person. But the principle is the same for everyone. The principle is that when you reach a point in your life where you feel you don't have a choice but to follow this. You understand? It could happen at the age of 12. It can happen at 40. It can happen at 60. Different people at different ages come to this knowledge and different experiences may prompt them. But the principle is this. Principle is you get an understanding, I have no choice. See, when I was in the Merchant Navy, I was living a comfortable life. I enjoyed my career. Everything was perfectly fine. And then when I came in touch with this philosophy, it suddenly something told me, listen, you don't have a choice but to do this. You understand? I had a choice. Actually, I had a choice. I could do anything. But almost something within you tells you, this is the thing, you got to do this right now. Other things can wait, but I need to attend to this first. It's a pressure that comes from within. Now, that pressure is a result of your past thinking. Your past thinking gives that pressure. It's like a thrust. Something is forcing you from within to move towards this. It's a result of your past thinking, either consciously or unconsciously. Some people who are seekers, they go from one place to another place, one Swami to another Swami, to find out who's the best person for them. Some of them consciously do it. They're looking out for the best teacher, the best book, best version, etc. There are people who are unconsciously thinking of it. They may not be consciously going from one place to another, but unconsciously they're thinking about what is life. Is there something more to life? Thinking is going on. They themselves may not be aware. The fascinating bit is people are unconsciously thinking may not be even aware that they've been unconsciously thinking. And then when they come to this, it is like a matchstick to fire. You know, they bring a matchstick to fire, the whole thing erupts. So when the person is ready and comes to this, straight away the person gets onto it. So what causes the person to change, to want to change, is a result of your thinking, is an accumulation of thinking from the past. Now, it's usually a combination. The combination is experience plus knowledge. Now, merely through knowledge to get to this, you need a very high level of intellect. Just with understanding, I say this is the right thing to do, is not easy. You will have to go through experience as well. So, experience combined with knowledge, with thinking, gives rise to that wanting to change. You get hit by experiences, the knocks and shocks of life makes you think. Otherwise, people take it for granted. They just take life for granted. Okay, I go to school, I go to university, this, get married, children. They just take it for granted. But they get hit at some stage in their life. It makes them think, what is life? They start questioning. It's a combination of both the experience as well as the thinking, both together. Some people, in fact, most people need tough experiences, but rarely you get people who don't need tough experiences. Oh, straight away get onto this. But almost 9 out of 10 people need tough experiences, some knocks and shocks for them to understand, to question. That's why, sometimes when people come and talk to me, and they're very emotional, and they say, I listen to them, but I don't. Sometimes I tell them, sometimes I can't tell them. This is actually good for you. You understand? Some people will feel, what is this yours? So you don't have a heart, is it? Like I'm crying, and you're saying this is going to be good for you. But what they don't understand is it will be good for them. Give them a 6 months or a year's time. When they get out of that, it'll strengthen them. It'll make them think in the right manner. It's like that. So if you go through anything like that, immediately you understand nature is helping me to get to this path. The difficulties are there so that it will guide me to this path. That's the right spirit to take it. If you get difficult situations, let's say for God forbid somebody gets cancer, things like that. How do you take it? I say, listen, all these things are there so that it'll make me think, question about life, get me onto the right path. So that way you keep yourself positive. You don't fall into any negativities. There's always a positivity. Suppose a person gets married, he has a difficult wife or a difficult husband. Oh gosh, I just got married, difficult person I've got. It's a blessing. This person is meant for my spiritual development. I have one person next to me all the time, poking me towards my development, constantly. So it's how you take it. What's that attitude that you take it? But that combination of experience plus thinking, you need experience to provoke you to think sometimes. You're not able to think on your own, so experiences provoke you to think. Ultimately, it's the thinking, it's not the experience. And once you realize that I have no choice, this is it. What else is the better thing I can do? I can't think of anything better. There's the only thing I can think of. Then that person plunges into it. So Valmiki was trying all this thing, highway robber, Ratnakar. His name was Ratnakar, in past life. And he was trying all that to get satisfaction through robbery and all these things. But it hit him. Listen, what am I doing? It's not the thing. There's much more to life. In fact, the example of Valmiki is to highlight the dramatic change that can happen. See, he was a highway robber. Overnight, he became a sage. So that they're saying that dramatic change is also possible. And not necessarily a gradual change, can be a dramatic change. Depends upon how quickly you're able to grasp that thinking. Remember in that other class, I don't know which class it was, Wednesday class or Tuesday class. I think a Sunday class, correct, where I was describing the self-realized person. I gave the example, needle through a rose petal. What is how much effort does it take to achieve self-realization? As much effort as it takes to pierce a needle through a rose petal. It's like that. How much effort does it? There's no effort to pierce a needle through a rose petal. What they mean is you've already put in all that effort, and then you straight away. That's what happened to Valmiki. He's already put in that effort. He's been thinking about it unconsciously. He's not consciously he's thinking. Unconsciously he's been thinking, and then one experience changed everything. You know that example of titration, where the chemical falls into the beaker, drop by drop by drop by drop, and one drop the color changes. It's not that one drop that is changing the color, is all the drops which have been falling for a long time. The cumulative effect of all the drops. But the change you see in that last drop. You observe the change only in the last drop, but all the other drops have contributed. Similarly with Valmiki, in that one experience which see the change, suddenly it's become enlightened soul. But it's a result of your past thinking, either consciously or unconsciously. In Valmiki's case, it's clearly unconscious. He was not even aware of it. Understand, Krish?
Yeah, thanks, Bhaskarji.
Okay.
Could I just ask, does that kind of conscious choice to change, does that happen in the intellect, in the subtle intellect, or the gross intellect, or?
It is a gross intellect. The subtle intellect is only giving a general direction, the subtle intellect. The role of the subtle intellect is it doesn't consciously think. Subtle intellect is the awareness of the self. It's there in the background. That is subtle intellect. But any conscious thinking is the purview of the gross intellect. Okay. Then somebody put their hand up, and then they probably the question was answered. Okay. Next question, question 2. Krish again. In English, the word inspiration shares a divine origin and is meant to move or influence through divine agency. The word inspiration means to move or influence through divine agency. How is inspiration defined in Vedanta? Is it different for each student? Therefore, something that cannot be prescribed but needs to be sought individually according to the constitution of the seeker. How is inspiration defined in Vedanta? Vedanta defines inspiration as a combination of your emotion and thinking. You have a mind and an intellect. The combination of devotion plus knowledge. So you pour out your devotion towards God, and the more and more you are devoted, you keep pouring out the devotion. That emotion keeps coming out. At the same time, you're thinking on the highest truths. You're trying to elevate your personality to the higher thinking all the time. When both these efforts keep going in, the devotion and the intellection, both keep going together, you reach a point where there's a saturation. This saturation is like the clouds which get saturated with water vapor. So when the water vapor rises, it condenses, into the cloud. A point comes when it gets saturated, the cloud can no longer hold that water vapor. So what happens? It pours down. Rain comes. It's exactly like that. That is inspiration. Inspiration is you keep on going with your devotion, keep on going with it, with your study and learning. A point will come when you can't hold it anymore. It bursts out. That bursting out is inspiration. It's not just an emotional feeling. It's not just a feeling. It is also backed by thinking. The combination of thinking and devotion. If it is only emotional feeling, it'll be there for a while, it'll disappear. It's temporary. Whereas true inspiration is permanent, it's not temporary. Some people get excited. Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. After 1 week, 2 weeks, that's it, it's gone. It dies away. But if it persists, then it means it's true inspiration. See, first day when you came to Vedanta, you were so inspired. First day you come, my God, what is this? I really want to learn this. You're so excited. There's something new you want to learn and get into this. Let's say a person has been attending 2 years or even 5 years. Do you still have that same inspiration as you did when you came first day to this subject? You understand? The first time you were so excited, my God, I got to explore this. If you're not careful, what happens is you lose that after a while. The true inspiration is you don't lose it. In fact, it grows more and more that you look forward to it. So, combination of devotion and the study. You're studying, you're trying to understand the scriptures, trying to understand the philosophy, plus there is wholehearted devotion, total surrender, total devotion. You're not holding back, you give yourself completely. Unless you are wholehearted, it won't happen. So that's how Vedanta defines inspiration. It's saturation of both devotion and study. In the Kenopanishad, the master cautions that this will appear as if you are in that state of enlightenment. But it's not, you're not in that state. So the master cautions, you're not there, you're not there. But once you're inspired, your whole personality is lifted up. You almost feel you're in that state of enlightenment. So that is the quality of true inspiration. It almost feels you're there, but it's not there. Still a way to go. So you can't call it as a feeling. You understand? You can't call it as a thought. It's a combination of both. To move or influence through divine agency. As if there is something divine within pushing you. It's like that. Is it different for each student? The principle is the same for everyone. Now, again, like in the first question I answered, what will trigger that inspiration may be different for different people. For some people, nature may be their source of inspiration. For some people, scripture may be a source of inspiration. Some people, a guru could be source of inspiration. Each one takes to it in different ways, but the principle is the same. Some people, nothing works. Anything you try doesn't work. You understand? You explain to them IS philosophy. You give devotion to them. You ask them to do some voluntary work. Nothing works. What can you do? Then those people have to take to Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga means force through compulsion. Hmm. Okay, Krish.
Yeah, thank you very much.
The next question, Dr. Krishna Chaturvedi. Where is Dr. Krishna Chaturvedi? Make yourself known, Dr. Krishna Chaturvedi.
I'm here, sir.
Ah, you're there. Ah, yes. Oh, you're Chaturvedi. I only know your first name. Okay.
Krishna Chaturvedi. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, of course, of course.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Yes. Question. Intellect emphasis is rightly mentioned by yourself and Swamiji. Could you please share some practical way we can apply in our spiritual journey? So, application of the intellect and the spiritual journey. So, when you say spiritual journey, what is it that you're doing spiritually?
Sir, like you suggested, and I have been doing, morning studies and other thing, like I'm repeating or trying to revise what I have learned a day before. That's one. And second thing, of course, like we said about thinking about the Brahman and thinking about lots of, things for everybody, not for myself only. So, but I must say in my medical career as well as my bringing up career, all was about the prayers, all about the respecting all those sort of things, but emphasis intelligent IQ and all that psychological, everything was explained in various things. Like I worked in psychiatry for my general practice.
No. Why are you getting into all that? I'm asking your question.
Why I'm asking you,
Spiritual
sir,
journey.
so my question was, emphasis was the intellect has been emphasized time and time, and I agree with that, that intellect is something which governs the thinking, which governs every. So what my question or what I wanted to know from you is the emphasis, how we apply it, like study and other things. So that was my question was, sir. So whatever the guidelines I could have or we could share, that's all, sir. Thank you.
Certainly. I appreciate it. Now, first step is you need to assess your personality.
Right.
That's the first step. So,
Right.
what is the use of intellect? Use of intellect is all the way through. You start with the intellect, you end with the intellect. The first, see, in other words, intellect is the equipment that takes you right to self-realization.
Right.
The tool is the equipment. So you have to keep on maintaining the tool, making the tool better and better so that your progress will be faster. Now, the first step, as far as the spiritual path, the application of the intellect is an assessment of your personality.
Okay.
Based on your assessment, you can mute your mic. Based on your assessment, you can choose what type of activity to do. What we just spoke about, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, the three yogas. Now you need to assess your personality, your nature, and find out, are you an emotional person predominantly? Are you a rational person predominantly? Or active person? Emotional person, see, a person could be a doctor, a person could be a judge, an economist, and still be emotional. See, emotional person means they react to emotions. Oh, I come to work today. I feel so good when I enter my office. You know, I feel so good when I sleep in my bed. I feel so good. Everything is you feel so good, or I don't feel good. I feel very low today. You know, I mean, what do you mean? Why you feel low? See, that is emotional. Emotional person goes through these fluctuations constantly. Plus, their assessment of others, their outlook of others will also be emotional. He's such a lovely person. He's not a lovely person. He didn't even smile at me. You assess others also emotionally. You are emotional, you see others also emotionally. Rational person is one who questions, inquires. Everything they'll inquire, they'll question. Why is it kept like this? Why is it like that? What is that thing there? Why is this covered? Why is this open? You know? Okay, why are you wearing this dot on the forehead? What is this mala there for? You understand? It's questioning that. What is this? What is that? All that kind of a thing. Why are we taking up these books in the classes? Why not other books? What is the reason for taking these? You know, it's not that you're challenging, but you want to know. You're inquiring. You're trying to find out. You're trying to understand it. Now that is a rational person. And third is an active person. Active person is half emotional, half rational. Half 50% emotional, 50% rational will be an active person who is prone to action, who wants to do things. I remember a businessman, a CEO of a company, he used to tell, he says, "Sir, I don't know, weekend also I want to go to work. I feel like going to work." He used to tell me. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Yes, I don't know what to do at home because everything is managed at home. I have nothing to do." I said, "Okay, then go to work." So if weekend used to go, he'll call a secretary and somebody else, one or two people. He doesn't need the whole staff to come, one or two people. And he, of course, I told him pay them also more for that. And he'll go there Saturday, he'll do half day, Sunday half day, like that he does. He's a very active person. He needs action. If you're active, you need to give yourself more activity. First step is that. First step is an assessment of what your nature is, number one. Number two, what is the application of the intellect? Is that once you choose these three paths, then you apply the intellect in each path. Even in the path of devotion, there is a role of intellect. What is the role of intellect in the path of devotion? Is making sure that you don't become attached. When you pray towards God, it can become a form of attachment. When you follow a guru, you could get attached to the guru. When you follow a scripture, you can get attached to the scripture. The intellect ensures that you have devotion, you follow the person, but not get attached. If you get attached, you become a fanatic. Fanaticism is not devotion. Devotion is a pure emotion, a positive emotion. Fanaticism agitates the mind. Devotion is guided by the intellect. Similarly, your karma yoga action is guided by the intellect. The intellect fixes a higher ideal and directs the mind towards that ideal. That is karma yoga. Fixing that ideal and directing all your actions towards that ideal is karma yoga. So karma yoga is directed by the intellect. Similarly, jnana yoga, path of knowledge, that is also directed by the intellect. In other words, a person could just keep on accumulating knowledge. You know, all sorts of books, all sorts of literature, morning, noon, and night, he could be reading it because there is no intellect guiding that. So if the intellect is guiding it, The intellect will say, listen, just like a university, there are certain books prescribed. I only follow those books in those 5 years in the university. Similarly, when you study spirituality, you follow certain books. You can't read all the books. It has to be a disciplined process. If it is not, then you will get into confusion. It'll be an intellectual confusion if it is not directed by the intellect. Even knowledge has to be directed by the intellect. What to read, what not to read. These are things I should not get into. Yeah, keep away from it. I remember one person came and asked. Only one person came and asked, what are the books I shouldn't read? I said, what? What is it? I never. First time I heard a question like that. I said, what do you mean? He said, no, sir, I want to learn this, but what is it I should avoid? I said, okay, it's an interesting thing you're asking. It's a very sensible question. See, because it's not only what you do, but also you should avoid, like healthy eating, for example. You eat the right type of food, you avoid wrong type of food. Both ways, to develop a healthy body. Same way to develop healthy thinking. You got to do certain things and avoid certain things. Both are essential. See, I don't know whether I should share that with you all. I know you're all waiting for it. See, the two authors, two people, for a reason, you got to steer clear. This was long time back. Now the list has grown, but anyway, 15 years back, this person asked this question. Two people whom you should be very cautious about is, one is Rajneesh Osho, and second is J. Krishnamurti. In fact, I would suggest avoid both. Then I explained the reasoning. I didn't simply say it, I explained the reasoning behind it. I said they've not digested the knowledge correctly. So they are recommending something which is not beneficial. See, Rajneesh advises, if a desire comes, go and fulfill it. Be free. Because that's what the scriptures preach, to be free. If a desire comes up, go, fulfill it. Be free. You will land in serious trouble if you do that. I was telling that person. You can't do like that. Similarly, J. Krishnamurti used to preach, don't follow any gurus, don't follow any books. You are the truth. You don't need to follow anything. In fact, that person was a follower of J. Krishnamurti who came and asked the question. And then I said, listen, when he's saying that, what is he implying? He's implying he's the guru. You follow him. See, when he's saying don't follow other gurus, follow other books, what is he implying? He's implying you follow me, follow what I am saying. So he's appointing himself as a guru. You understand? In other words, you have to follow somebody. You got to follow something. Whoever you follow becomes a guru. You may not call that person a guru, but you're following that person. You need some guidance, etc. I explained quite a bit to that person. But see, the main thing you've got to consider in the path of knowledge is it should be consistent thinking all the way through. The advice given to solve a problem at work, an advice given to solve the problem at home, and the advice given for pursuing self-realization, there should be a consistency. It can't be sporadic advice given for each one, different things. So consistency of thought is very important. A structured, consistent thinking. That is the role of intellect as far as jnana yoga, path of knowledge. So all the three paths require the application of the intellect. And then even further, when you go to renunciation, meditation, in meditation, again, it's the role of the intellect. There's the intellect which keeps the mind on a single thought. What keeps the mind on the chant, on the japa in meditation is the intellect. Without the intellect, you'll slip into other thoughts. So intellect maintains that last thought in meditation, and then the last thought disappears. That's when the intellect also disappears and you realize the self. The intellect takes you right up to the end, and once the intellect goes, then you're self-realized. You've got to develop the intellect to transcend the intellect. Because now you will say, listen, now also I don't have intellect, but why am I not self-realized? It doesn't work like that. You've got to develop the intellect, strengthen the intellect, and then you will transcend the intellect. That's the purpose of the scriptural study. That's the purpose of Vedantic philosophy, to strengthen that intellect.
Thank you, Bhaskarji. Very well explained. I'm most grateful. Thank you.
Welcome. Next question. Puneet. See, all are usual suspects. Krish, Puneet, have to ask. Question. How do we know that Brahman has the same qualities as the world, i.e., time, space, and causation? So, Puneet, the way this is explained is that we don't know Brahman. You understand? Now, what is Brahman is given in the scriptures. The description of Brahman is given in the scriptures, that Brahman is all pervading, Brahman is eternal, infinite, all these kind of ways, is explained. Now, what they are asking us to do is they're asking us to examine the world. We know the world. We don't know Brahman, but we know the world. And when we examine the world, and as you rightly are saying, time, space, causation, these are the three pillars of the world. So if you examine time, space, causation, you realize that time also doesn't seem to have a beginning or an end. When does time begin? When does time end? We can't figure it out. We can't fathom that. So you see the quality of eternity in time. And then in space, again, you don't know where space starts and ends. You see the quality of all pervading in space. And then in causation means the cause and effect relationship. In that causation, again, you see it's infinite. You don't know where it's starting, where it's ending. In time, you see the quality of eternity. In space, you see the quality of all pervading. In causation, you see the quality of infinity. And then when you look at the scriptures, you see, my God, they're describing Brahman as eternal, all-pervading, infinite, which are the qualities in the world. That's exactly what they're saying. What they're saying is the qualities of Brahman seem to have got projected onto the world. And why is it got projected onto the world? Because it's an illusion. In illusion, the qualities of the original object gets projected onto the image. See, a person is going in a forest, is walking in a forest. He is scared, So he is all the time wary of wild animals. He's scared. And suddenly he screams, elephant, 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 elephant. His friend is there next to him. He says, where's the elephant? See, the elephant. It's a huge boulder sitting there. He's mistaken that boulder to be an elephant. Understand? The qualities are similar. The qualities of the boulder appears like the back of that elephant. Similar. In any illusion, the original qualities get projected onto the illusory image. The famous example of the rope being mistaken for the snake. The rope and snake are similar. You can't mistake the rope to be an elephant. Oh, elephant, where's the thing? There, rope. Hey, that's a different condition. You understand? That is a psychiatric condition. He is mistaking the rope to be elephant. It's a different condition. Now, that's not usually when you're mistaking, the qualities are similar. The original qualities get projected onto the illusory image. That is the nature of illusion. Similarly, the qualities of Brahman have got superimposed onto the world, and therefore you see that in time, space, and causation.
Thank you.
But ultimately, the world is limited. The world is impermanent. Ultimately, on self-realization, you realize this entire thing is just an illusion. So it's not that the world is eternal and all-pervading and infinite. No, it's not like that. But it appears to be because of the illusion. Once a person transcends the illusion, then the person realizes entire thing is just a projection. The world does end on self-realization. You okay, Puneet? Okay, good. Chandrakantji.
What you just described is like a image, I mean a mirage, yes?
Mirage.
Am I right?
Yes. Yes. Mirage is an illusion. There's no mirage
Yeah.
there. There's no water.
Yeah.
It appears as if there's water in the desert and the first person is running towards that. There's no water. It's just a projection. What he doesn't see the underlying desert. He doesn't see the underlying sand.
Mm.
So
It's
that's
the
what
same.
you're saying, that you don't see the underlying reality. You're seeing a projection on top of it.
That's the same as the Brahman and the world.
Correct. Brahman is compared to the desert. World is the mirage. Any other questions? Sham?
Hari Om Bhaskarji.
Hari
Um, don't expel me. I've got a question. Last week we were discussing about Atman pervading everything, all pervading, including dead body and stuff like that. I've been thinking about it. And on death, you said the subtle body moves under substratum of Atman from one to another body. I'm just thinking, why didn't people think about the subtle body being the enlivening principle? Because all pervading Atman is all over. The only variable is a subtle body in each person. So I'm just thinking, why do they say Atman is the enlivening principle? Why not the subtle body? Why don't they think in that way?
See, the subtle body is a relative enlivening principle, but what enlivens the subtle body itself? See, but when we define life in the world, we mean the presence of the subtle body. That's what generally we are calling as life. But the fact that you have feelings and you have thinking, what makes you feel? What makes you think? What enlivens your feelings and thinking? Say, okay, the subtle body enlivens your gross body.
Yeah.
It enlivens your pranas, it enlivens everything else. But then what enlivens the subtle body? That's where you need to bring in another component, which is Atma.
Well,
What-
the reason I asked you is because Atman pervades everything, all over, even dead body.
No, that's true. So what has that got to do with this? When you're saying enlivening principle means that what gives that power, what gives that sentiency.
Yeah.
The subtle body takes care of the lower things, but what takes care of the subtle body itself? Something beyond it, something superior to it.
Sure.
In fact, what is superior to the subtle body is a causal body, vasanas.
Yeah.
Then you say, what is superior to vasanas? What enlivens the vasanas? Then you bring in Atma. So
Right.
Atma is the subtlest, then it's vasanas, then subtle body, then gross body. The subtle controls the gross.
Mm.
Whatever is the subtle, it controls the gross. You know, simple.
Thank you, Bhaskarji.
Gayatri?
Namaste, Bhaskarji.
Yes.
I've just been very curious in trying to understand the whole process or the whole thing about karma, right? You had mentioned in some of the classes that, what we are today is based on our deeds, what we might have done either earlier in this janam or hopefully, I don't know if there is a concept of the previous janam, right? So, and maybe what we were in that previous janam could have been because of the karma or the deeds that we have done previous to that, right? And where does it end, right? Or where does it start? Like, have we ever started our journey as just pure soul with no bad deeds, and then we start accumulating these deeds over the period of time? But I'm just trying to understand, is there a starting point where everything is pure?
See, when you fall into a dream, when you go to a dream, what is the starting point in the dream? Let's say tonight, when you dream that you are a person who is married, you got children, you got a job in the dream, you're dreaming, okay? Now, if I come and ask you, what is the starting point of the dream? What will you say? You will say, yes, I went to a university, I went to a school, I was born, you'll show the birth certificate in the dream, all that you will say. You'll produce all that. But what actually happened? When you fell into the dream, everything started immediately. So the starting point is the time that you fell into the dream. But as soon as you fell into the dream, immediately there's a whole world projected. Immediately there's a sequence of events projected. But it's not one by one you fall into the dream. When you fall, everything happens at the same time. The whole projection is there at the same time. Similarly, this waking world is also like a dream. You've fallen into it, it's so real, and everything is there. And your question is, now when did this whole thing start? We keep going back and back and back and back. When did that first thing start? Nothing started like that. If you're in this world and you're trying to examine it, you'll never find the answer. Only way of finding the answer is to go out of it. Just as when you go out of the dream, you understand the dream. Similarly, to understand this waking state, you've got to go to the fourth state, Turiya, self-realization. When you go to that fourth state, then you understand the mystery of this state.
So if we've fallen into the dream, then how did we fall into this dream, right?
That you'll know when you wake up. The dreamer can never understand why they have fallen into the dream. Only when the dreamer wakes up, the dreamer understands. It is just a projection of the mind. But while you're going through the dream, you can't understand. So any amount of explanation I give you, you will not understand. You've got to wake up to understand the truth.
But is someone making that decision that we are all in this dream? We're all as human beings going
No,
to
you are the one who's projecting. It's your projection. Your projection. We are all part of your projection. When you wake up, this whole thing disappears. When you go to deep sleep, what happens to this world?
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. That's it. When you wake up, the world comes back. It's your projection, nothing else. The theory of karma, the law of karma, is only to temporarily satisfy inquiring mind. So a person asks, no, why am I here in this position like this? Is it because of your past actions? Your past actions have produced this present destiny. He says, okay, fine. And then he asks, okay, where did that past comes from? No, that is come from the past, before that. For past action. Now, where did that come? You keep going back and back and back. You can't find the starting point. You can't say, okay, from here it's all started. There's nothing like that. That's what I just described. Time is eternal. Space is all pervading. You can't pinpoint it and say, this is where it started, this is where it ends. Science can't say that. Nobody can say that. Where it's starting, where it's ending.
So if this is my projection of the dream, and you are a part of that projection, can I change that projection to
You
something?
can't change. You can only wake up. See, the only difference is between the dream and this dream, between your dream and this waking state. In the dream which you have at night, there's no conscious choice given. Whatever is projected, you've got to go through it. In this waking state, there is a conscious choice given. That is the difference. So with this conscious choice, you can make your way out of this dream. That's the best you can do. You can't change this thing, but you can make your way out. When you go out into the fourth state, then you realize this whole thing is just a projection. That's why they've given the spiritual path. What is the spiritual path? Spiritual path is a path that takes you out of this world onto the fourth state. What should you do? Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. Do the 3 yogas, reduce your vasanas, get on to deeper contemplation, deeper study, meditation, and then realize it. So the whole path is there. The purpose of it is to experience that fourth state.
Thank you, Bhaskarji.
Okay. Sunila.
Namaste, Bhaskarji. I think it was yesterday's talk where it was mentioned that feeling is universal while obligation is preferential.
Correct.
What I wanted to know on that, combining with the prarabdha karma. So if there are, say, parent and child, abusive relationship, or husband and wife, abusive relationship, or between 2 brothers or elder brother, sister, whatever. How does a person at some time act and gets out of it? Is it that they get the message that their prarabdha, the part of suffering, is over, and as a result they get out? Or how does it happen?
No, it's nothing to do with prarabdha karma. See, I'll first explain what Sunila's question is. Sunila is asking, in this kind of any relationship, if it is abusive, how do we know to what extent we are supposed to go through it?
That's right.
And what extent we have to come out of it. Now, I'm glad you asked this question, because this is one thing you've got to be cautious about. We use this theory of prarabdha vasanas only to explain a self-realized person's actions. See, why does a self-realized person act even though the person has no desires? It's a very valid question, because every action you do is because of desires. A self-realized person has no desires. He's gone beyond desires. How is that person still acting? For which we give this theory of prarabdha vasanas. He doesn't have any vasanas, he doesn't have any desires, but because of the past momentum, whatever vasanas he's born with, he goes through that. As a result, he's just carrying on until that gets exhausted. When it gets exhausted, he dies. That's a theory of prarabdha vasanas. It's specifically brought in to explain that particular question. There's no other way you can explain that question. Why does a self-realized person exist? Why does a self-realized person act even though he doesn't have desires? Now, what I would recommend is don't use prarabdha vasanas for anything else. The difficulty is exactly like this question. You get confused. Now, which is prarabdha vasanas in my personality, in my life, which is not prarabdha vasanas? You will not be able to find out. It is only a theory. That's it. In practical analysis, you cannot find out which is your prarabdha karma, which is your prarabdha vasanas. So I would recommend you don't even use it. Instead, what you do is take it all as just vasanas, sanchita vasanas, total vasanas. I got to get rid of all vasanas and operate in that. The moment you find if it's an abusive relationship, you need to exit. Whenever you feel this is not right, this is unhealthy for me, and if you feel you need to move out, you move out. Don't worry about whether prarabdha and all that. Don't, if you get mixed up in that, not only this abusive thing, but even let's say you have a strong desire for alcohol. A person has a strong desire for alcohol. The mind can justify, oh, I think it's a prarabdha vasanas, I have to go through it. I got to keep drinking because my prarabdha vasanas, what to do. Therefore, let me go through it. The mind justifies there if you're not careful. A person is not exercising. Hey, why are you not exercising? Anyway, prarabdha vasanas are like this. Prarabdha vasanas are not exercise. Why are you forcing me unnecessarily? What do you mean prarabdha vasanas? You understand that the mind can justify anything. That's why never ever take it for practical application. Usually we keep saying in Vedanta, apply everything practically, except prarabdha vasanas. Only thing you don't apply practically is prarabdha vasanas. This is just a theory for explaining the existence of a self-realized soul, the actions of a self-realized soul. That's all. After that, leave it. Don't get into it. I'm glad you asked the question because it may help so many other people as well. If the mind can justify it, then you're gone. It's a dangerous territory.
So what dictates the person to get out at some stage? Is there any reason?
It's not that I wouldn't say you have to get out in all situations. It depends upon to what extent you can manage, you can handle it. It depends upon your intellect, to what extent you know how to deal with it. If you know how to manage it, you manage it. But if you feel it's beyond my capacity, I can't deal with it, it is too agitating for me, then you need to move out. Can't be in that. See, for example, you don't even have to go to abusive, not to that extent, but even relatively, let's say a person has a weakness for alcohol, is drinking. Suppose you understand, okay, that person's nature is to drink. Leave him, let him drink. After he drinks, next day he's fine. There's nothing, he's a perfectly fine person. Once a week he'll drink, leave him alone. Then he comes back, he is fine. Each one has their weaknesses. This fellow's weakness is this. That's it. I manage it. If you're able to manage it, carry on. So another person says, I can't manage it. It's too disturbing. So then what can you do? If too disturbing, you can't handle it, you got to leave. So you've got to find out what capacity you have to handle that situation.
How would it apply between parent and child? Because if they are younger children, they may not be able to decide when they and where would they go. So how does it work?
That's true. That is the difficulty. So with children being caught up in an abusive household is very difficult because they don't have an intellect. They've not developed an intellect. So they are completely under the influence of the parents, Parents have total control over it. That is where others have to step in. The state has to step in, or relatives, other people, when you notice that, you step in and extract them. Otherwise, children, they can't, because they're not grown up. They don't have intellect to do that. So we'll need to help them to get out of it.
Thank you. Namaste.
Okay. So we finished the Fall of Human Intellect in this class, and the next book is the Select English Poems, which we are starting on the 7th of October, the week after the retreat. So we have the retreat, and then the week after the retreat, the Monday, we'll start the Select English Poems. The reason for the gap is because the marketing team needs some time to do a bit of advertising. So they need 3 weeks to put the posts on Instagram, Facebook, and all that, so that we inform the wider community plus new people. See, whenever we start a new class, it's an opportunity to get new people in. So that's why the marketing team, they do a bit of advertising and all that to develop that awareness. And then if anyone wants to join, they can join when we start the book. It's more likely people will join when we start. So once you've started, it's less likely that anybody joins. Some of you may be wondering, oh, why such a gap? Or maybe Bhaskarji needs time to prepare. I can take it even now if you want. A turkey tired of common food forsook the barn and sought the wood. Behind her ran an infant train, collecting here and there a grain. Turkey and the Ant poem. I will recite the whole poem if you want. So no, not for that reason. That's why I'm explaining the reason. There's a lot which goes on behind the scenes which you all don't see it. Okay. Let's conclude. Hari Om, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Yeah, was not muted.